Okay, so the first problem I'm going to try to solve is the ongoing energy crisis. Okay, and I will offer 5 choices of solutions to consider. And the first possible solution I have is to increase the corporate tax for all the biggest corporations in the world because they can afford it, okay? And as I mentioned before, I'm going to use real life stories from my own clients that I've spoken to, and they have said things that make me believe this is a smart way to do, okay? So in case you don't know this, the biggest corporations in the world, they are incorporated in a state or a location where they pay a very small amount of tax, like nearly 0%, okay? And one of my clients that I had, he has been in accounting for the biggest firms in the world. And what he said was, when he looked through these very complex accounting files and had to prepare them, he thought it was unbelievable that all this money was funneled out of the country. And then all the citizens of the country, they had to pay a high rate of tax or a normal tax for living in the country. Okay, why don't we flip that around so that the normal citizens, they pay lower tax, like let's say 5%, and the corporations, they pay like 40%. They can afford it. And then keep all those billions and billions in the country and thereby spend that money to get cheaper energy solutions into the country. And then the people that pay less tax will have more money to pay the energy bills. And then we're on the right track, right? Okay, so that was my first solution to this problem. The second solution I have for the energy crisis is similar, but it is regarding the Federal Reserve and the printing of trillions. There's trillions of dollars being printed to help ease the situation in this and that regard. Why don't we take some of these billions or trillions to figure out new energy solutions and buy new energy sources for the country? Should be pretty simple. The third possible solution I have for the energy crisis is cutting a little bit away from the army budget, 700 billions per year, right? Spending a certain fraction of that on new energy solutions. Instead of spending resources on the war machine, spend it on something peaceful. And for this particular example, I will also mention one of my former clients, something he said. So I had this client that had a lifelong career in artillery. And after he was done as a soldier, he continued his career in the weapon sales and artillery sales department. So that means he was now, as he called himself, a businessman. And at that time, it's many years ago, he was my client. He mentioned one sentence that I remember very clearly, and that is, business is great because this country is at war with this country. Okay? What can we learn from this? Well, we can learn that there's a lot of money in war, and in some cases, maybe we just need to scale it down, and maybe that can be the key to solving conflicts around the world. If we have a more peace-oriented mindset instead of saying business is great when there's war. That's pretty clear-cut logic if you ask me. And I'm not saying that necessarily like these people are really bad. You know, you could just say that it's the natural cause and effect, almost like mechanics, right? You have built a system that thrives on cash flow, and there needs to be certain actions that take place to stimulate and keep this cash flow running, right? So it's more about a system that's working a certain way and not necessarily about good or bad people. It's just like a way of being positive as well. Okay, now to the fourth solution to the energy crisis could be making a new law for philanthropists. So that is top billionaires that choose to go and spend many of their billions on projects overseas for charity, okay? Why don't we make them do charity work inside our countries so the money will stay in the country? For example, doing charity for better energy sources, more clean energy, you name it. You also get the point probably. In this case, I will also mention a powerful example, a real life story where I actually went to a charity event. So in this case, we were at a charity where we were going to donate money to poor schools and renovation of schools for children to have good learning and school tables to sit and stuff like that. Okay, so I'm standing with some guy from Hollywood and a guy that was a Swiss banker. And before I talk too much about Swiss bankers, I want to mention that I actually have a friend that is a Swiss senior banker as well. That's a good friend. I consider him a really good guy, and he will probably agree with pretty much everything I have to say in these videos. But the Swiss banker that was at this charity event, he said one thing I will never forget, and I think you won't too. So his wife was standing at a few tables away. She was like cleaning a table for the school kids and renovating it with sandpaper. And she was working really hard. She really wanted to help the school children. And then we were standing like far away. And then this guy, the Swiss banker, he told me, he looked at her working like crazy. And then he looked at us, like me and the guy from Hollywood. And then he said at us, like, quiet, it's a disease. Think of that. He said about his wife that was working really hard for these kids, that it's like a disease how hard she's working. Like it was almost like he said that she was not normal in her brain to work that hard for these kids. So from this sentence we can learn a lot about some people that are wealthy but don't really care about doing real charity. You know, it also tells us something else. Probably that he was not there actually for charity, but maybe he was there to reduce his tax payments. Because I don't know if you know this, but that's a trick. If you're really wealthy, you can invest a lot of money in charity and then you don't have to pay taxes for that amount of money. And then if you know the people or own the charity, for example, and then you will have reduced your taxes quite significantly. And that probably tells us something about that most people in charity are not there for charity. Because otherwise, why would he go around and talk to people he didn't know at a charity, like me, and just talk about it like it was not about charity? You get the point? But again, a friend of mine who is also a senior banker in Swiss banking, which has seen a lot of cash flow, right? He's a good guy and he agrees with a lot of the stuff I say and a lot of my views, and positive guy and wishes the best for the world. So you cannot just say that all people that work in this industry are bad or something like that, you know? So I'm not like trying to label people in that way, okay? Okay, so now let's go to my solution number 5 to the energy crisis. And that is simply to de-escalate and continue to do business and keep an open market with each party of the conflict, instead of closing down the market and saying, no, we're not gonna buy from you, this and this country. And you know, it's almost like small children having a fight, you know? If you don't de-escalate, it will just get worse and worse. So we need to get in with a more adult mindset and start to de-escalate instead of trying to make it worse and worse by tightening the vice, so to speak, and putting more and more pressure on each other on a global scale. So keep an open market. That is going to be solution number 5 for the energy crisis that I have thought about. Okay, so that already took a bit longer time than I expected. Sorry about that. I'll try to edit it as short as possible anyway. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. If you want to learn more tools and techniques and habits that can improve your life quality and performance and well-being overall, subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you like tropical island holidays, visit fitcamp5.com for my 2-time TripAdvisor award-winning training camp, where we train fitness and action sports together while learning to live a healthy lifestyle and, maybe most importantly, have fun at the same time. And if you're really serious about improving yourself, you should definitely check out my full online courses, where I share step-by-step programs on how I developed my own routines over the last 12 years as a CEO, working in 4 different countries, while being a successful competitive athlete with more than 20 years of experience in fitness and nutrition. Check the link in the description for that. And in any case, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, be awesome, believe in yourself, and see you on the next one.